Good evening, everyone. Good evening, guys. Right, welcome back to our day 3 of our FDP, SDP, STTP on Python for AI 2025 program. So we'll quickly recap what we have covered in the last session. Then let us start a new topic. So we understood what exactly is Python, right? Python programming language and the features of Python programming. Later on, we started with a fundamental topic called variables, right? Variables are nothing but objects in Python which help us to store the literals, the values. Variables are a type of identifiers, right? Yes. The next two variables, we started with data types. The recent class, we have understood the topic of data types. What is the purpose of data types in Python? The purpose of data types is, to allocate sufficient amount of memory. Whatever the value that you are trying to store, in order to store that value, we need some memory. And that memory can be allocated by the data type. Okay. So how many data types we have in Python, guys? In total. I want all of you to interact with me. Okay. I'll be asking you questions throughout the session. So you have to keep on interacting. Use the chat box to drop your answers. Come on. How many data types we have? In total, there are 14 data types. There are 14 data types. These 14 data types are actually categorized into 6. There are 6 category data types. What are the 6 category data types that we have in Python? Fundamental, then next to fundamental we have sequence, right? Next to sequence we have list, then set, and next to set we have dict, and finally none type. So these are the 6 different categories of data types that we have in Python. 6 categories, and these 6 categories contain in total 14 data types. Right, good. So let me start with fundamental category data types, guys. Okay. So what are the data types that we have in fundamental category data type? We have int, float, bool, and complex. Right? So these are the 4 different data types that we have in fundamental category. What is the purpose of fundamental category data types? What is the primary purpose of using fundamental category data types? Fundamental category data types help us to store, a single value. In order to store a single value, we use fundamental category data types. It might be int, float, bool, or complex. If you want to store only one value, yes, use fundamental category data types. Then coming to int, what is the purpose of int data type? Everyone have to respond. Don't sit silent. Start dropping your answers. Float data type. Sorry, int. What is the purpose of int data type? Purpose of int data type is to store integer values. Yes, to store integers, and these integers ensure that they does not contain any decimal values. No float values are accepted. To store integers, positive or negative, whatever it might be, we use int data type. Then coming to float, what is the purpose of float data type? What is the purpose of float data type? We use float data type to store numbers with decimals. In short, decimal values, decimal numbers. Yes, floating point numbers. That. What is the purpose of bool data type? What is the purpose of bool data type? Bool data type help us to store, logical values. That means we can store true or false. The values like true, false can be stored using bool data type. And internally, what is the value that true is associated with? True is internally, it is represented with the value 1. False is represented with the value 0. Right? Next to bool, we have complex. Purpose of complex type. What is the purpose of complex data type? Good, good. Keep going. Guys, this is a kind of revision session. Okay, we'll understand the rest of the data types in today's class. Yes, in order to store complex numbers, complex values, which are in the format of a plus bj or a minus bj, we use complex type, complex data type. Right? So this is what we have understood with respect to fundamental category. Then next to fundamental category, we also discussed sequence category data types. But before that, what is the purpose of sequence category data types? What is the purpose of sequence category data types? They help us to store, sequence of values, sequence of numbers, whatever it might be. A sequence of characters can be stored using sequence category data types. Right. So different data types that we have under sequence category data type are str, good, str, bytes, bytary, and range. And range. Am I right? So let us discuss what is the purpose of str data type. We have str, bytes, bytary, and range data types in sequence category data types. Good. What is the purpose of str? When do we use str type? When we want to store sequence of values, right? So we store the sequence of values enclosed in single quotations or double quotations or triple single or triple double. Right? So when you store that sequence of characters, sequence of values in single quotations or double quotations, triple single or triple double, obviously it represents, it uses str type for storing sequence of characters, sequence of numbers, whatever it might be. Then we have bytes data type. So what is the purpose of bytes data type? Bytes data type help us to store again sequence of positive numbers. Only positive integers can be stored between the range of 0 to 256, which means 0 to 255 only. I can store n number of values, multiple values between 0 to 255 using bytes data type. Then byte array. Byte array is also similar to bytes. The purpose is same. It helps us to store positive integers. So the range will be again 0 to 256, which means 0 to 255. Right? But what makes the difference between bytes and byte array? Bytes is a immutable object. Bytes is a immutable object, whereas byte array is a mutable object, guys. Bytes is an immutable object. Byte array is a mutable object. What is the difference between immutable and mutable? Tell me the difference between mutable and immutable. Mutability, immutability. Explain the difference. Mutable means the objects can be changed. They can be edited. Such kind of objects are called mutable objects. Immutable means these objects cannot be changed or edited once if they are created. Once if I create a bytes object, okay, and if I try to perform item assignment, it will throw me error. It will throw me an exception. But if I do the same on a byte array object, it will accept. It will not raise any exception. So this is very important. Then coming to the range data type. Range type. So what is the purpose of range type? The purpose of range data type is to store again numbers, integers. So I can store integers. It can be positive integers or negative integers. Okay. But the difference that you'll observe is within range type, it also helps us to store these integers with step. With step value. What does this step represent? Step is representing the interval. Right? Then under range, we have also discussed whether range is a mutable or immutable. Right? So tell me, is range mutable or immutable? Is range mutable or immutable? Come on. Range is immutable. Yes, range is immutable. So once created, it cannot be changed. The object cannot be changed. Fine. And we have also discussed the concepts of indexing and slicing. Indexing and slicing. So what is indexing in Python? What is indexing in Python? I want everyone to answer. Indexing is nothing but accessing one value. If I want to access a single value, it might be a character, a digit, whatever it might be, accessing one value is nothing but indexing. What is slicing? Slicing is nothing but accessing a range of characters, a range of values is called slicing. Very, very important. Obtaining a single value, obtaining a range of values. Good. How do we represent indexing in Python? So it is nothing but the syntax will be object of. Within the square braces, we have to provide the index number. This is nothing but the syntax for indexing. Coming to slicing, it is quite similar to indexing, but additionally, you will observe the colon symbol. For slicing, we have discussed 5 different types of syntaxes. Right? So one is start and end syntax, object of, start colon end. The second one is object of, start colon. Third one is object of, colon end syntax. Then the fourth one is not providing both of these two, just representing colon. That means the entire object will be returned. Right? And the fifth one is object of, start, nothing but begin, colon, end, colon, step. So these are the 5 syntaxes that we have discussed for slicing, guys. All these are very important. Okay. So if you have missed our previous session, okay, it is already available in our channel. Just go through the session because, data types is one of the important concept that one has to be clear of. If you understand data types, only then you will be understanding the rest of concepts. Very, very, very important. Right? Yes. So without no further delay, so what is the next topic in the sequence? Done with fundamental. We are also done with sequence category. So we are supposed to start with list category data types. What is the next topic? List category data types. So let us start the class. As usual, yes. So I'll take all your questions at the last. Let us understand what exactly is the purpose of list category data types. The next category data types is list category. Like how we have a purpose for fundamental and sequence category, in the same way, list category data types also have a purpose. Yes, there should be a purpose. When you are using something, there should be a defined purpose for it. So what is the purpose for list category data types? Is they help us to store multiple values. So you can store multiple values, okay? These values can be of same type or different type. So that means either you can store the values coming from the same data type or different data types. And one more thing, these values can be unique and they can also be duplicates. Okay, so that is the purpose of list category data types. It is also called as collection data types. Okay, because we are going to have multiple data types, right? Within list, you can have multiple data type elements. So within list category, there are two types. What are they? List and tuple. List and tuple. So let us understand both these data types one by one. And you'll also understand the difference between list and tuple. And here we have the overview of list. We are going to understand all these options, all these topics as part of list. Initially understanding the purpose. Then how do we organize the values within a list object? Indexing and slicing operations. Then there are some predefined functions. We'll be understanding the predefined functions. Then we also have nested list, also called as inner list. So what is nested list? What is inner list? We'll be understanding. Then next to it, we have some operations on inner list. We'll be understanding them. And finally, the predefined functions. Right? So let me start with the first topic. It is list. Under list category, the first topic that we have, the first data type is list data type. So what exactly is this list? List is one of the predefined class. So if you consider the other data types, it might be int, float, complex bool, or str, bytes. All of them are a predefined class. They represent a class. And a list is treated as list category data type. You know why? Let us understand the purpose of list. If you understand the purpose, you'll understand the story behind why it is treated as a list category data type. A list purpose is, the list data type purpose is, it helps us to store multiple values. So I can store n number of values in list, either of same type or different type. So same data type elements can be stored or different type elements can be stored. Done. And these elements, these values can be unique as well as duplicates. So that means the purpose is similar to list category. Yes. So that is why you observe list being considered as the list category data type. Okay. And the values, the elements of list should be organized between square braces. So within the square braces, we keep the elements of list organized. And these elements will be comma separated. They will be comma separated. Okay. List data type objects. They do maintain insertion order. What is this insertion order? Insertion order represents we insert the values one by one. Yes. When we push the values, when we insert the values into the list object, into the square braces, whatever the order that we push, even the same order when you are trying to access the elements, it will display this in the same order. The order will not change, guys. You'll observe it, right? The order does not change. That is why you say list objects maintain insertion order. They do maintain the insertion order. And list belongs to mutable type. That means we can change, we can edit the object of list even though if it is created. Even after creating it, we can change the values. Perfect. Then, can we perform indexing and slicing? Yes. Indexing and slicing both are accepted. We can perform both the operations. If you want to do conversions, when you want to perform conversions of one type values to list objects, we use list function. There is a function called list function. And this list function help us to perform the conversions from one type to the other type. Fine. Within the list objects, there are of two types. What are the two types of list objects? One is empty list and the next one is non-empty list. First one is empty list. The second one is non-empty list. What do you mean by empty list? Empty list means which does not contain any elements. So there are no elements. No values inside the square braces. So obviously the length of the list object will be 0. Such kind of list objects are called empty list objects. Empty list. What do you mean by non-empty? Non-empty contains elements. Empty does not contain elements. Non-empty contains elements. When it contains elements, the length will be greater than 0. Even though if it contains one element, it will be a non-empty list. It is not empty, right? So these are the two different types of list objects we have. So let me focus on the hands-on part because there is lot more stuff related to list. We'll be understanding one by one. Okay. So I'll go back to the spider. Right. So let me create a list object, guys. You see in line number 448. What am I doing? I'm trying to store the values. Okay. So if you see the values, all of them are numbers, integers. So what data type elements are we trying to store? Int. Int type values we have within the list object. Okay. So all these elements, are they comma separated? Yes. The numbers are comma separated. And are these numbers enclosed in square braces? Yes. They are enclosed in the square braces. Do we have duplicates? Yes, we also have duplicates. We also have duplicates. Do we have unique values? Unique values are also present. So, a list is a combination of same type or different type elements, objects, where all these elements are comma separated, which allows us to store unique values as well as duplicates. And these elements or the values of list will be enclosed in square braces. See, whatever we have discussed, the same purpose, you see, you'll observe it here. Right? So this is a list object and I'm trying to store it in L1. L1 will become a list object. Observe. So you see here, L1 is the name of the list object. The type of the object is list. And these are my values. So the advantage of Spider is when you click on these objects, it will allow you to open. You can go through the detailed step. You see total 6 elements. Why 6? Why the size is 6? I see 6 elements. So that is why you see the size being 6. Okay? Right. And for these 6 elements, what are the types? All of them, they belong to int type. Now, the value, the size is 1. Clear? And by default, the indexing starts from 0. You see the index also. Done? Yes. So this is my list object. I am using print function. Okay. And I will be printing the list object along with its type. So this will print me the list object along with the type list. Done. Then we have a function called len, which means length function. Which means length function. What is the purpose of length function is, length function will return us the size. It will return us the size of the object. When I say length of L1, it will return me 6. Why? There are 6 elements within the L1 list object. In the list object L1, there are 6 elements. So that is why you see the size as 6. The length as 6. Fine. Let me go with one more example. What we are doing here, I am creating one more list object, but I see all the elements are not of same type. Apart from ROSUM and Python, rest of all these values are of different type. See, this belongs to str type, bool type, float type, str and int. Okay, so I'm creating an object L2, a list object L2. What will be the size of L2? Size will be 5. Size will be 5. Then, when I say print of L2 comma type of L2, this will return me the entire list object along with the size, along with the type, list. Because the type is list. It is a list object. What will be the output for line number 454? Length of L2. It will return me 5. Good. The output will be 5. Perfect. What are we doing in line number 456? What is this operation called? This is called item assignment, which means I am trying to. So if you see here, L1 of 2. What is L1 of 2? L1 of 2 is 30. Right? 0, 1, 2. I am trying to perform item assignment. I am updating the value. Is list mutable or immutable? List is mutable. So it allows us to update the values. It allows us to update the values. Right? So when I say L2 of 300, will I get any exception? No. I'll not get any exception. So when I execute line number 456, it gets, updated. You see here, the value is getting updated. No issues? Right. Now let me perform indexing and slicing on the list object L1 of 2. Tell me the output for line number 458, guys. What will be the output for line number 458? L1 of 2. L1 of 2 will be 300. Just now the value got updated, right? It is no more 30. L1 of 2. At index position 2, within the list object, L1 of 2 represents 300. No more, 30. No. It's not 20. It will be 30. By default, indexing starts with 0. Keep in mind. Okay. What we are doing in the next line? 459. Slicing. Is it slicing or not? Yes, I am performing slicing. 2:5. 2:5 represents, 2 represents the begin index, 5 represents the end index. We know the sequence has to be stopped at n minus 1. 5 minus 1, the sequence has to get stopped. So it will start at 2. The next value in the sequence will be 3 and the next value will be 4. So it will stop at 4. What will be the output? The output will be 20, 340. Good. What will be the output, guys, for line number 459? Let me execute. Clear? Because the index 2 represents 300. 340 and 10 will be the output. Don't get confused. Colon 2. There is no start index, nothing but there is no begin index, there is no end index. That means the entire list object can be taken as is. But the step value is 2. By default, it starts at 10. But the step value being 2, it will not return 20. It will return 300. Then it will return 10. So for the next line, line number 460, the output will be 10, 310. 10, 310. In the same way, tell me the output for line number 461. (461). Colon -1 means the entire list object will be returned in the reverse direction. Good. 20, 10, 40, 300, 20, 10 will be returned. Good. In the reverse direction, guys. Fine. In the next example, what am I trying to do? I am trying to create an empty list object. We have discussed that list objects are of 2 types. Yes. So, if you observe here, within the square braces, do you see any values, any elements? No. So, obviously, it is an example of empty list. It is an example of empty list. So, when we use empty square braces, it returns us an empty list object. See. What is the size of L3? 0. Size of L3 is 0. When I say print of L3 comma type of L3, it returns me the empty list object comma list. Because the type is list. Then length of L3. What does length of L3 will return us? We know length function will return the length of the object, the list object. What is the length of L3? 0. Length of L3 is 0. Done. Is there any other way, alternative way for creating empty list? Yes, there is one more way. What is it? We can directly use list function, guys. When you use list function, in which if you don't pass anything, this will create me a empty list object. See, am I passing anything inside it? Am I passing anything? No. So this will also return me an empty list object. So let me do it. List of. List function is what I am using. So this is again an empty list. Done. Print of L4 comma type of L4 will print me the empty list object. Okay, if you see here, it is again an empty list. The type will be list. Done. See, length of L4 will return me 0. Because empty list object, right? The size will be 0. Good guys. See, if you are responding, that means I can understand you are active. If you don't respond, there is no use. Everyone have to respond. Right? So I hope you are clear on the list, how we can build list objects, and I hope you guys are also clear on indexing and slicing concepts. Right? So now let us focus on some predefined functions that we have in list that can be used on list. The first one that we have is append function. What is the first one? Append function. What is the purpose of this append function? Append function will help us to add. It helps us to add elements to the existing list object at the end. By default at the end. So to the existing list object, you can add an element to the existing list object. Where? At the last, at the end of the list object. And this is the syntax of append function, guys. The list object that we have dot append of element. This will perform append operation. Okay. So the element that we are trying to add should be kept inside the append function, and this element will be added to the list object at the last position. So see here. What am I doing in line number 476? What are we doing in line number 476? Creating a empty list object. The size is 0. Then to this empty list, I am appending a value, an element. What is the value that we are appending? We are appending row sum. A str type element is what we are appending to L1. Will it allow to append? Yes. I am not against the syntax. I am obeying the syntax as is. So this will, add row sum to L1. See. Row sum got added to L1. Done? Yes. In the same way, let us add a float value using append. 23.45. Will it allow me to append? Yes, it will. See? Next to row sum, it has appended 23.45. Do you observe? Is 23.45, it got appended before row sum or after row sum? After. So when you use append function, the element will be appended. That means added at the last position at the end of the existing list object. So I'm just printing this L1. What is the L1? List object. Along with its type, you'll get list as output, and ID function will return as the address of L1. See. Clear? Yes. Next to append, we have insert. Next to append, we have insert. When you say insert function, okay, What is the purpose of this insert function? The insert function helps us to insert the values. It helps us to insert the values at the specified location. So you can specify the location where you want to insert the value, the element. That can be done. Okay. So the syntax for insert is index comma element. At whatever the position you are trying to insert, the index position followed by the element. So this index can be either positive or negative. We are aware of it, right? Yes. So I'm creating a list object L2. So this is my list object which contains three values, three elements. Then when I say print of the list object and type of the list object, ID of list object, it prints the list object apple, banana and kiwi, and type will return me the type nothing but list. ID function will return me the location in the memory. Done. Now I'll be using insert function. Using insert, it is clear that I want to insert the element Goa at what position? At index position 1. At index position 1. So L2 dot insert function will help me to insert Goa at index position 1. So what happened? Banana was being sent back. Right? Whatever the element that we have at index position 1, earlier it is banana, but now we have Goa. Right? So when I print these values, I'll see the updated list. See, you'll observe the updated list. Next to insert, we also have remove. Remove function. What does remove function does? Remove function helps us to remove the first occurrence of the element. Whatever the element that you want to remove, you just specify the element and the first occurrence of it will be removed. Okay. So what if that element is not present? You'll get an exception called value error. You'll get an exception called value error. So the syntax is list object dot remove of element. Remove of element. So I'm taking the same list object, apple, banana, kiwi and guava. And what am I trying to remove, guys? What is the element that we have specified? Banana. So that means when I use this remove function, so this function will help me to remove banana from this L2 list object. From the list object L2, banana gets removed. Done? Yes. Let me print the updated list. You'll not observe banana no more. No banana. Right? In the same way, let me also remove kiwi. Will kiwi get removed? Come on, guys. What will be the output for line number 502? Exactly. You will get a value error. Don't get confused. The kiwi that I have here and the kiwi that we have in the list object, both are not same. They both are not same. So you will get a value error. Good catch. You will get value error. Okay. The element is not present inside the list object. You will get value error. So when I say the updated list, to print the updated list, the updated list is as it is. There is no change with respect to the list object. Done? Yes. Let me go to pop. The pop of index. There is a function called pop of index. So this pop of index function help us to remove the element that we specify. I mean, whatever the index The element that we are trying to remove based on its index value, it helps us to remove the elements. So within the pop function, we have to specify the index. Okay, whatever the element that is present is in this specific index number, it gets removed. The syntax is similar to append. Yes. So instead of the element, we specify the index value. Right? What if this index is invalid? We'll get index error, guys. We'll get index error. I hope it is clear. Right? So let me create a list object. The size is 5. So what am I trying to do? L2 dot pop of 4. Will this return me any error or which element will be removed? Tell me in the chat. This is going to remove the element at index position word. So apple takes index position 0, banana takes 1, kiwi takes 2, goa takes 3, banana takes 4. So the banana which is present at index 4 will be removed. See. When I say print of L2, you'll observe only 4 fruits, 4 values, 4 elements. In the same way, pop of -1. Can the index be negative? Yes. If you go in the reverse direction, index will be negative starting from -1. So which element is at index position -1? It's Goa. So when I say pop of -1, the Goa gets removed and it prints the updated list with 3 elements. Done. Simple. If you understand the purpose of each and every function, how they work and the syntax, you are done. Any question can be answered. There is only function called pop, and this function pop helps us to remove by default the last positive indexed value. Whichever element is present at the last positive index number, that element will be removed using pop function. We need not specify any index. See, I'm taking the same list object. Done. So when I say L2 dot pop, L2 represents the list object pop function. So which element gets removed? Obviously, banana will be removed because banana is the last element which takes the index value as 4. So you see, banana got removed and it printed me the updated list with 4 elements, 4 values. Done. In the same way, when I use L2.pop again, this will return me Goa because Goa is the last element, the last positive indexed element or value. It got removed. So I'm printing the updated list. Done. Yes. And next to pop, we have clear function, guys. What does this clear function does? The clear function help us to remove all elements of the list object. So within the list object, if you have n number of elements, n number of values, all of these elements or the values can be removed using clear function. In short, we can say that it is actually clearing the elements. Right? The syntax is list object dot clear function. Right? So even if you try to use this clear function on an empty list object, okay, we never get error because even in empty list object will not have any elements, right? But still we'll never get any error. See, what am I doing? L2 is a list object of size 5. Yes. When I say print of L2, this will print me the entire list. Right. Length of L2 will return me what? It will return me 5. Okay. Now, I'm applying clear function. I'm applying clear function. When you say L2 dot clear, it will return me, it will clear. It is going to remove all the elements, all the values present in this L2. Done. See, it has removed all the elements. Print of L2 will return me an empty list object, empty list. And LEON of L2 will return me 0. Clear? Yes. Then let us also understand delete. We also have, it's not a function, we have del, delete, which helps us to delete the elements. Okay, which helps us to delete the elements based on their index values, or you can also provide the slicing based on the slicing values. It helps us to delete the elements. If you want to delete the entire object, even that is also possible. The object itself can be deleted using del, delete keyword. So I'm using L2, a list object L2 of size 5. Then what am I trying to do here? I'm using del keyword, delete. Okay, I'm using del keyword, and I specified that I want to delete L2 of 1. L2 is the list object where I want to delete the index value element at position 1, which means banana. Is that possible? Yes, it is. So this will delete the banana element from the L2. See, banana got removed. In the same way, let me go with slicing, guys. When I say 1:3, what is 1 representing? Index. Both 1 and 3 represent index. So this will return me the index value starting from 1 till 2 only. 1 and 2, that's it. So what values do we have in 1 and 2? It is Kiwi and Goa. So these values will be deleted from L2 list object. See. Done. Then next to it we have, I'm directly specifying to delete the entire object L2. I did not specify any index values. Either it might be indexing or slicing, I did not specify. So which represents, I want to delete, the entire list object. The entire list object I'm trying to delete. So del of L2 will delete the complete list. Okay, so let me execute. Done. Do you see L2 here? No, L2 has been removed from the memory. It has been deleted permanently. So when I say delete print of L2, I'll get an exception stating that L2 is not defined because there is no object called L2 in the memory. Within the memory, do you see any L2 object? No. So that is why you see an exception. I hope it is clear. Right. Next to del, we have count function. Count function. What is the purpose of this count function? The count function helps us to return the, count of occurrences of the specified element. If you want to return the count of an element, the number of occurrences of an element, that can be returned by count function. What if that element does not exist? Okay, then simply it returns the count as 0. So the syntax is given here. List object dot count of element. Count of element. So here is a list object. What is the size of it? 12. The size of the list object L1 is 12. starting from 0 till 11, index 11. Done. So let me print this list object L1 to the console. Done. So when I say L1 dot count of 10, when I say L1 dot count of 10, what does it mean? I want to get the number of occurrences for 10, element 10. So count will return me the number of occurrences for element 10. It is 4. Let me cross check. 1, 2, 3 and 4. In the same way, tell me the output for line number 569. 569. Count of 20. 1, 2, 3. So the output is 3 only. Done? Yes. Next to count, we have extend function. We understood count function, right? In the same way, we have extend function. What does this extend function does? The extend function helps us for extending the functionality of one list with the other list. When you have two lists, and if you want to add the other list to the existing, the one more list, that can be done using extend function, guys. Here is the syntax. List1 dot extend of list2. List1 object dot extend of list2. This is going to extend. So the values of list2 will be added to list1. See, here I have L1 and L2 as two different list objects, 3 and 3. When I say print of L1, print of L2, the list objects will be printed to the console. Done. Now, what am I doing here in line number 581? I kept it as L1 dot extend of L2. L1 dot extend of L2, which means the values of L2 will be added to L1. So if you observe, size of L1 became 6. Earlier it is 3. Now 3 more got added to L1. So that is why 3 plus 3 will be 6. Print of L1 will return me 6 elements. Print of L2 will return me the same 3 elements. If you observe, the last 3 elements of L1 are nothing but the 3 elements of L2. Clear? Yes. The next function that we have is reverse. So what is the purpose of this reverse function? Let us focus on it. A reverse function helps us to reverse the list object content. Within the list object, you will have the elements, the values. So these elements or the values will be returned in the reverse direction from back to the front. That is the purpose of reverse function. So I have a list object of size 12, and these are the elements that we have in the list object L1. Okay. Now I say L1 dot reverse. When I say L1 dot reverse, the elements within the list object L1 will be returned in the reverse direction. That means it will start from here. 60, 50, 40, 30, so on till 10. See, when I say print of L1, this will return me all the elements in the reverse direction. They will be written in the reverse direction, guys. Making sense? Right. Next to reverse, we have sort function. We have sort function. What does sort function does? Sort function helps us to sort the values, sort the elements, either in ascending order or descending order. Okay, either if you want to sort the elements in ascending order or descending order, up to you. By default, sort function does it in ascending order. There is a parameter called reverse. What is a parameter? We'll discuss. Within function, you'll have something called as parameters arguments. Okay. So one of the argument that we have is reverse. So this reverse, by default, it takes the value as false, which returns us ascending order as output. If the reverse is true, the value for the reverse is true, it returns the output in descending order. Okay, right. So this is my list object and I'm printing the list values, the list object values. When I say L1 dot sort, where I did not specify the value for reverse, which means reverse takes false by default, right? So that means the values will be sorted in ascending order. See, what do you mean by ascending order? Ascending order means the values will be written from small to big. From small to big, the values will be written. You see in the output? What if I change the reverse value to true? If I keep the reverse value as true, it will return me the output in descending order. See, from big to small. So this is all about the functions that we can use on list object. There are two more functions. There are two more process related to copy. For that, I have to go back and discuss about copy process. So what do you mean by copy? First of all, you have to understand, right? What do you mean by copy? Copy is nothing but, copying the content of one object to other object. Is this called copy? Yes. This is called copy. Right? This is called copy. In Python, we have two different types of copy process. One is called shallow copy and the other one is called deep copy. Okay. So what is the difference between shallow copy and deep copy? Let us understand. Shallow copy means the content between the objects, the two objects will be same. Okay. In deep copy, yes, the content between both the objects will be same. Okay. Coming back to shallow copy, the memory address of these objects will be different. So that means object A address will be different, object B's address will be different. Coming to deep copy, the address of these both objects will be same. So here comes the difference between shallow copy and deep copy. In shallow copy, the address of the objects will be different. But in deep copy, the address of both the objects will be same. So when you try to modify any of these objects, so the modifications are independent. Why? As they do not represent to the same address. But here, the modifications are dependent. If you try to change the values present in A, obviously that will be reflected in B. That will be reflected in B's object as well. So how can we perform shallow copy in Python is using copy function, but deep copy can be implemented using assignment operator called is equal to. We use is equal to for performing deep copy in Python. So this is all about the copy process. Now let us have a look on examples related to copy. Copy. The different types of copy. Let us have a look. What are we doing in line number 613? We are creating a list object. Yes, we are creating a list object. Yes. What is the size of L1? It is 2 because there are only two elements. There are only two elements. Print of L1 comma ID of L1 returns me. The print function will return me the entire list object along with the address of list object returned. So this is our list object and this is the address of the list object. Now, what am I doing? I'm using copy function. When I use copy function, it performs what? Shallow copy. It performs shallow copy. Right? So I'm going to perform shallow copy. That means the content of L1 will be same as the content of L2. L2 will also get the same content. But the address of L1 and L2 will be different. Let us check. Done. So I see the same elements in L2 also. But what about the address? Address is different. Address is different. The two elements, the two objects L1 and L2 are not, stored. They are not at the same address. They are representing two different objects in the memory. So what if I try to append the value to L1? When I say append of any value, append of Python. So what's happening? This is going to append value Python to L1. Right? So the size in L1 will be 3. Size becomes 3. Done. When I say print of L1 comma ID of L1, it will return me the list object and the address. Right? Will the same be reflected in L2? No. The modifications are not seen. When you try to modify any of the object in shallow copy, it will not affect the other object. The other object will not be affected. Do you see Python got appending to L2? No. L2 is intact. There is no change. L2 is same as it is. I hope it is clear, guys. Now let us go to deep copy. Shallow copy is clear. The same example, I'm taking L1 and I'm printing the elements, the list object L1 and their address of L1 done. But this time, let me perform deep copy. Instead of shallow copy, let me perform deep copy. How can we implement deep copy in Python? Using assignment operator is equals to. Using is equals to. So, if I say L2 is equals to L1, the L1 content will be copied to L2. L1 list object content will be copied to L2. So, see, we'll observe the same elements within L2 also. What about the ID? The address will also be same. If you focus here, the address of L1 and L2 is same as it is. When you try to modify any one of this object, it will also affect the other object. See, I'm trying to append DS, str type value, str type element I'm adding to L1. See what happens? It will also get added to L2. So That means the modifications are dependent in deep copy. See, the elements are same. This address is also same for both L1 and L2. This is called deep copy. I hope it is clear. So these are the different functions that we can use on list, list object, list data type. Right? Now, let me go with inner list or nested list. So we have inner list or nested list as well. What exactly is this inner list or nested list? Inner list represents list within a list. List object within a list object is called inner list or nested list. You see here, I have two lists inside the main list. So this is a inner list or nested list. So let me define student info. It's nothing but. What is the size? The list size is 5. How come? 1, 2. So this entire list will be 3. The second inner list size will be 4. This will be 5. Okay. So that is why you see the size of the list is 5. When you open it, you will again get a clarity. What did we store in the list object? We stored an int value, two str values, and two list objects. You can still go beyond it. See. So this advantage you will observe only in Spider, guys. If you try to do it in other IDs, you will not get these advantages. Right. So let me print this an inner list object along with its type. Done. It is list. It is list. Okay, but it is actually called as inner list because we are able to have list inside a list. One list object inside the other list. Can we perform indexing and slicing? Yes, we can perform indexing and slicing. Okay, so what am I trying to do here? I am performing indexing on the inner list object. When I say stored info of 0, that means I am trying to access the element at 0th position of this list object. What will be the output? Everyone has to respond. What will be the output? The output will be 10. For line number 648, what will be the output? 2 info of -2. That means -1. The entire list will be -2, index -2. So that is nothing but the second list, inner list. 76, 56 and 67 will be written as output. I want you guys to respond for line number 649. 649. Stu info of -3 -3. -3 -3. What is -3 representing? This list. It is representing this list. Right? Again, within this list, what is a -3 element? Index. Which element is representing index value -3? 15, 19 and 13 represents, the element at -3 position, index position -3. Am I right? Yes. So let me execute. In the same way, 3 of 3. 3 of 3. Output for line number 650. 650. 0, 1, 2, and the second inner list is at position 3. Okay. Within this second inner list, do we have any index element at index position 3? No. So we will get a, what we get? We'll get index error. Because the index value that we have specified is invalid, guys. Invalid. Tell me the output for line number 651. No, 67 will be is at index position 2. See, when you go in this direction, this is 0, 1, 2. Respond for line number 651. Right. So what we have specified? Within the list object, which element do we have at 3? 0, 1, 2, and this is 3. This entire list, I want it in reverse direction. That is what we have specified. So this entire list will be returned in the reverse direction. 67, 56, and 76. Clear? Right. So this marks the end of list data type. Now let us focus on tuple guys. Let us focus on the next data type in list category is tuple data type. It is tuple data type. So let us understand what is tuple data type. It is a predefined class and it is treated as list category data type. The purpose of tuple is to store multiple values. Then these values can be of same type or different type. Okay. Again, these values can be unique and duplicate. We can also have duplicates also. So within a tuple object, the elements should be organized in braces. The regular braces. These are called as parentheses. They are called as parentheses. And the elements of a tuple should be separated by comma. They have to be separated by comma. So similar to list, but in list you will observe the values organized in square braces. But here it is parentheses. Okay. Tuple objects, they do maintain the insertion order. They do maintain the insertion order. Fine. So the main difference between list and tuple comes here. List is a mutable type. Tuple is immutable type. Tuple is a immutable type category data type. Then you can perform indexing and slicing operations on tuple. And for conversions, if you want to convert any other type to tuple, we use tuple function. Like how we have list function, in the same way we have tuple function. And within tuple also we have two objects. One are called empty tuples and the other one are called non-empty tuples. What do you mean by empty tuples? Tuple objects which does not contain elements and length will be obviously 0. Non-empty tuple objects means which contain any elements and the length is greater than 0. Similar to list, right? Yes. The important point that has to be noted here is the functionality of tuple is exactly similar to functionality of list. Yes, if you understand the purpose, again, even the properties are almost same. But what is the difference between list and tuple is list is a mutable type, tuple is immutable type. That is the only difference that you observe between list and tuple. Apart from it, there are no other differences. Anyhow, we understand that, For list, we use square braces, and for tuple, we use parentheses, the regular braces. So this marks the end of tuples explanation. Now let me go with the hands-on for tuples. Because as tuples are immutable, here tuples, once if the objects get created, we cannot change them, we cannot edit them. So that is the reason the hands-on is also very limited. Why? List being mutable, you can perform any kind of operation on it. That is why we have almost learned 13 to 14 functions. But can you apply all those functions on tuple? No. Why? Tuple is a immutable type. Right? What am I doing? I am creating a tuple object. Okay. And the elements are, all of them are integers, int values. So this will return me a tuple object. T1 will be a tuple object. What is the size? It is 6. The size is 6. Print of T1 comma type of T1 will print me the tuple object along with the type as tuple. Then length of T1 will return me 6 because there are 6 elements. In the same way, let me create one more tuple, but this tuple object will contain elements from different data types. Different types. So this is also a tuple object, and I'm printing the tuple object along with its type. So it will return me the entire tuple object with the type tuple. When I say length of T2, I see only the size being 5 because there are 5 elements, 5 values. So it will return me 5 as output. It returns 5 as output. Job done. Clear? Right. Let me create an empty tuple object. How do we create an empty tuple object? Using empty parenthesis. This will create an empty tuple object. Right. This will create an empty tuple object. Done. Size is 0. When I say print of T3 comma type of T3, it returns me empty tuple object at the tuple. Length of T3 will return me 0. Why? It's an example of empty tuple object. Empty tuples. Are there any other ways for creating empty tuples? Yes, I can directly use the tuple function. I can directly use the tuple function. So when I use the tuple function, this also returns me an empty tuple. So T4 will also be an empty tuple. So let me print T4 with the type. Length of T4 will be 0 again. It will be 0. Indexing and slicing. Can we perform indexing and slicing on tuples? Yes. So T2 of 0 will return me what, guys? T2 of 0 will return me 10. Because we have 10 at the 0th position of, at the 0th index of T2. In the same way, let me perform slicing 0:5, which means the index value starting from 0 till 4 will be returned. Starting from 0 till 4 will be returned. So when I say T2 of 0:5, obviously it is going to return all the elements. Yes. All the elements of T2 will be returned. Now, next to it, I am going to perform item assignment. Will line number 674 execute or not? Will 674 execute? No. Why? Tuple is immutable type. Once if it is created, T2 is already created. If it is created, It will not allow us to change. You will get a type error. You'll get item assignment not supported. Good. So let me create a inner tuple, nested tuples. If you see here, within the tuple object, you see one more tuple. I also see list. Accepted. Yes. So this is an example of inner tuples or nested tuples. See. So T1 is a tuple object which contains 5 elements. And these are the 5 elements. See, I can open the tuple. I can open the list also in the same way. Okay, added advantage of spider. So this will print me the tuple and the type as tuple anyways. When I say T1 of 3, where I am performing indexing, what will be the output for line number 679? What is the element that we have at index position 3? 0, 1, 2, 3. The list object will be returned as, output. See, the entire list object. Perform. What will be the output for line number 681? Good, good. T1 of 3 of 0. We know T1 of 3 is nothing but the list object. Within this list, what is the element that we have at index 0? It is 56. Right? So, I am trying to perform item assignment. Is that possible here? It will execute. Why? List is a mutable type. List is a mutable type. So, when you try to perform item assignment on list objects, it will execute. See, instead of 56, I see 100. But let me do the same on the inner tuple. T1 of 2 is nothing but the inner tuple object, right? This object. T1 of 2 of 0, that means 14. Can we update 14 with 100? 684. What will be the output, guys? It will throw us an error. Why? Because tuples are immutable. They does not support item assignment. Clear? So that is how you can answer when you are clear with respect to the theoretical part. And if you do enough amount of hands-on, you can answer any question. Right? So the next category data types that we have next to list category are set category data types. The next category data types are set category data types. Perfect. So let me go with the next category. Let us understand what is the purpose of set category data types. The purpose of set category data type is they help us to store multiple elements or multiple values. We can store multiple elements or multiple values. Okay. And these elements can be of same type or different type. They can be of same type or different type. But these values should be unique. That means no duplicates. Duplicates are not allowed. But in list category, even duplicates are also allowed. Right? So this is the purpose of set category data types. And within set category data types, we have two data types. What are they? Set, frozen set. Okay. So let us understand the first data type. It is set data type. Let us understand the purpose of set and the properties of set. The first data type under set category data type is set data type. What is the purpose of set data type? Is it helps us to store multiple values. We can store multiple values either of same type or different type. Okay. But these values, these elements should be unique. No duplicates. No duplicates. The elements of set are organized in curly braces, also called as flower braces. We call them as flower braces. Yes. The elements within these flower braces will be comma separated. They will be comma separated. Okay. List uses square braces. Tuple uses parenthesis. Set uses flower braces or curly braces. Right? Yes. And coming to the set objects, the set data type, they never maintain insertion order. They don't maintain insertion order. So, in whatever order you try to update the values, you may not find the same order when you try to display them. Because there are n number of possibilities to display the values. They don't maintain the insertion order. I hope it is clear. Right? And coming to indexing and slicing, we cannot perform indexing and slicing. Indexing and slicing cannot be performed on set objects, set data type objects. Right? Is set mutable or immutable? Set is both mutable, set is also immutable. What? Yes. Set is both mutable and set is immutable. So can you please explain how it becomes mutable and immutable? Yes, I will explain. In case of add function, there is a function called add which helps us to add the elements. In case of add, the set is a mutable type. But in case of item assignment, set becomes immutable. You cannot perform item assignment in a set object. On a set object, we cannot perform item assignment. So that means updations are not possible. But you can add the elements using add function. Very, very, very important, guys. This point is ambiguous, but still, this is how the set objects have the properties. They don't have duplicates allowed. It is both mutable and immutable. When it is mutable in case of add, when it is immutable in case of item assignment. Okay, very, very important point that has to be noted. Similar to list and tuple, even set objects are of two types, empty set, non-empty set. Empty set means they don't contain elements, the length will be 0. Non-empty means they contain elements, the size will be greater than 0. Simple. So this is all about set. Let me focus on, the hands-on part to the set data type. Before that, let me I'll clear out all the memory once again. It's taking time. Anyways, yeah, it's done. Right. So what am I doing? I'm creating a set object. How do you understand it? You see the braces that we have used are flower braces. They are flower braces, curly braces. Right. And the elements are comma separated. But I see duplicates, right? Okay. Even though if you have duplicates, when you execute this, we know that within a set object, the element should be unique. Do you observe duplicates? No. It removes the duplicates. It returns or it keeps only the unique values. But if you observe, do they maintain the insertion order? No, they are not maintaining the insertion order also. They don't maintain the insertion order. Sets does not maintain the insertion order. So I'm printing the set object along with its type. Done. I'm creating an empty set object. Very, very important. When I used empty square braces, it created empty list object. When I used empty parenthesis, it returned me an empty tuple object. But what if I use empty flower braces? Will it return me empty set object? No. No. It will return me an empty dict object. The next data type that we have. Okay. Even dict also uses flower braces. So empty flower braces returns a dict object. It will not be a set object, guys. Point to be noted. Okay. So even if you try to print, this will return me a dict object. It's part of dict. Then how to build an empty set object is we directly use the set function. We'll use the set function. So when you use the set function, this will return me an empty set object. See, there is no empty, there are no elements within the set object. Done. So when you try to print the results, you'll see the output as set. Now, that makes the difference. Right. What am I doing? I'm creating one more set object. And if you observe, we have Python as repeated for twice, right? We know within set the values cannot be repeated. We cannot have duplicates. So it will ensure that the duplicates are removed. And we know that the insertion order is also does not maintain in sets. So this will return me a set object of size 5. If you see rosum is first, next to which we have true, then a float value, then Python, and finally 10. But here, initially I passed 10. Initially we had 10. So they don't maintain the insertion order also. Even the insertion order does not get maintained in sets, set objects, set data types. Okay. What am I doing? I am performing indexing. Can we perform indexing on set object? No. Indexing is not supported by sets. See, set object is not subscriptable. That means you cannot perform indexing. Why you cannot perform indexing? When you can perform indexing is when the order is maintained. But set objects, they don't maintain the order. If they don't maintain the order, how the index number will be fixed? That is why indexing is not possible. Indexing is not possible. In the same way, if I go to line number 708, where I am trying to perform slicing, is slicing allowed? No. Slicing is also not allowed. There is no concept of indexing, guys. See, if you observe, you will not have index numbers. For the set elements or the set values, there are no index numbers. Right? So indexing is not possible. Even if I try to go with one more example, I get the same error. The same exception will be raised. Okay. Let me go with item assignment. Does set support item assignment? No. Set is immutable in case of item assignment only. It does not support item assignment. Right? But we know set is mutable in case of add function. In case of add function, set is mutable. So I'm using add function and I'm trying to add an element to set object B. So this is possible. See, any UT got added. Next error Unitech, got added. The element got added. So I can print the set object along with its ID. So very, very important. Only in case of add function, set is mutable. In case of item assignment, set is immutable. Now let us focus on few functions that can be used in sets, on sets. I'm creating a set object. First of all, for the first function that we have using is add function. We know the purpose of add function is for adding the elements to the set object. So I have a set object S1 with two elements, 10 and 20. And I'm going to print the set object along with its type and the ID. Got the results. They got printed to the console. Then I'm using add function and I'm trying to add an element Python. An element Python is what we are adding to the list set object S1. Yes, the element got added. Python got added. And let me print the results. So in the same address to the same object, Python got added. Done. That's it. Let me work out on clear function. What does clear function does? Clear function will remove all the elements. We already understood clear function in list data type, right? Yes. So this is my set object. And on this set object, I am performing clear function. We know clear function will remove all the elements. So obviously the size will become 0. When you try to print B, it will return me an empty set. Empty set is what it is returning me. The next function in the sequence is remove. What does remove does? Remove also helps us to remove only a specific element. Clear will remove all the elements. Remove will remove only the specified element. Whatever the element that you want to remove, only that element will be removed from the set object. Okay. What if this element is not present in the set object? Then we get key error. An exception will be raised. Let us check. This is a set object. Yes. And I'm using remove function. And I'm trying to remove what? Rosum. Our father of Python, I'm trying to remove from the set object B. Does Rosum is present? Is Rosum present in B? Yes, it is present. So obviously Rosum gets removed. So when I say print of B, I do not observe Rosum anymore. Because Rosum gets removed from the set object B. But what if I try to remove 100? An element 100. Do you have 100 first of all in B? No. So this will raise me an key error. An exception raised. It is key error. So that is what you have to interpret. Okay. Then next to it, we have discard function. What does this discard function does? Discard does the same like remove, but the difference between remove and discard is, let us understand. Discard function, it also helps us to remove the element from the set object. So similar to remove. But what if the element is not present in the set object? You will not get any error. In case of remove, you are getting error, key error. But in case of discard function, even though the element is not present, it will not throw you any exception. Let me try. Here is an example. I'm using discard function. Okay. I'm trying to discard Rosum. Is Rosum present in B? Yes. So Rosum gets removed. Done. But is 100 present in B? No. When I try to discard it from the B, set object B, it will throw me any error? No. It will not raise any exception like remove. That is the difference between remove and discard functions in sets. Okay. Remove function will raise an exception when the element is not present in the set object, whereas discard doesn't. So that is the primary difference. Next to which we have pop. What does pop does? Pop function help us to remove any arbitrary element. Okay. By default, the last one. Right. So when you try to do this pop on an empty set object, when you are trying to do it on an empty set object, it will raise us an key error gates. It will raise me an key error. Let me check. So this is my set object. So I'm defining my set object B. On B, I'm using pop, which will remove any arbitrary element. Because the reason behind it is in sets, as they don't maintain the insertion order, any element can be removed because there is no index. So any element can be removed using pop. See, row sum was being removed. Let me do one more time. It removed true. So you cannot guess which element can be removed. So this is what happens. When I say print of B, the updated set gets printed with 3 elements. Clear? Then the next function that we have is disjoint. What does is disjoint does? Is disjoint, it's a function returns true. So the output will be only bool values, either true or false. When it will return true, in case of if there are no common elements between the set objects. Between the two set objects, if there are no common elements, then is disjoint will return true. What if there are common elements? It returns false. Opposite. Okay. So I have 3 set objects S1, S2, S3. Now let me use is disjoint between S1, S2. So do we have any common elements between S1 and S2? Yes. There is a common element 10. So obviously the output will be false. The output will be false. Let me try is disjoint between S1 and S3. Do you see any common elements? No. None of them are common. All positives and all are negatives. So this will return me true. Guys, disjoint sets, subset, superset, we have learned as part of our sets and relations concept. In mathematics, probably in 6th or 7th standard, there is a concept called sets and relations. Right? So as part of sets and relations, there are topics like disjoint sets, where you will not have any common elements. So the sets will be separated from one to another. Subset, superset, all these we have learned, right? So the same functions we are doing it one more time. That's it. Okay. So is superset. What does is superset does? It returns true when all the elements of set 2 are present in set 1. Okay. So if you observe, if all elements of set 2, if they are present in set 1, obviously set 1 is superset of set 2 only. Right? If they are not present, you'll get false. If they are present, you'll get the output as true. In the same way, we have subset function. Subset means it is part of it. Like ML is subset of AI. DL is subset of ML. Right? Subset, supersets. So this subset function, it returns true when the elements of object 1, the set object 1 are present in object 2. So quite opposite to superset. Okay. The syntax is same, but the function is changing. Is superset, is subset. So I have three sets. I'm defining three sets. Okay. What are the three sets? S1, S2, S3. So tell me, is S1 superset of S2? All elements of S2, do you find in S1? Yes, I find them in S2. All elements of S2 are present in S1. So this will return me true. In the same way, is S3, is S1 superset of S3 also? No. 60, 70 are not present. No. Let us work out on subset. S2 is subset of S1. Obviously, right? S2 is subset of S1 because the elements of S2 are part of S1 also. True. But S3 is subset of S1. No. There are no 60 and 70 elements in S1. This will return me false. Simple. E is superset, E is subset. Quite opposite. Next function. Union. What does union return? Union will return us all the elements from both the set objects. Union represents, the combination, the concatenation. If you take two set objects and if you perform union, all the elements from both the set objects will be combined. So if you see here, I have set S1 object, S2 object, and I'm performing union operation. I'm using union function, which will combine all elements of S1 and S2, and the output will be stored in S3. The output will be stored in S3. Okay. So what am I doing here? I'm using union function. Yes. So I'll get the output as 10, 20, 30, 40. But will 30, 40 repeated again? No. 30, 40 will not be repeated, guys. Because this is sets. You cannot expect duplicates. Duplicates will be removed. So the output will be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 and 70. Let me print. See. As they don't maintain the insertion order, the output can be in any fashion. Next to it, we have intersection. Union combines all the elements from both the set objects. Intersection will return only the common elements. Intersection function will return only the common elements between the two set objects. Right? So when I say I have two set objects again, S1, S2. Now I'm using intersection function on both of these set objects, S1 and S2. What are the common elements between S1 and S2? Between S1 and S2, the common elements are 10, 20, 30, 40. So only these four elements will be returned as output. Okay. So only the four elements will be returned as output and they will be stored in, sorry, even 10, 20 are also not present, right? Only 30 and 40 will be returned as output. My bad. Okay. So let me print the results. 40, 30. Clear? The next function is difference. It is difference. What is the purpose of difference? Difference function actually helps us to remove the common elements between the set objects, and then it takes the remaining elements from both the objects and stores the output to a new object. So this is what difference function does. Okay, right. So if you see here, between S1 and S2, what are the common elements? 30 and 40. So these elements will be removed. The rest of the elements between S1 and S2 object will be combined and that will be written as output when you use difference function. When we use difference function, this will be the output. So let me do it. Yes, I'm done. Okay, the elements from only the set object 1. Okay, only from the set object 1 that returns the output. It is going to place the output in the new object. So if you see in S1, 30 and 40 are already present in S2. So that will be removed. What are the other elements that are not present? 10 and 20. So 10 and 20 will be the output for difference function. Clear? Then we also have symmetric difference. What does symmetric difference does? Symmetric difference, it does similar to difference, but instead of just taking the elements from the first object, it also takes the rest of the elements present in second object also. So that means here in this case, when we use symmetric difference on this case, we'll get the output as 10, 20, 50, 60 and 70. That makes the difference between difference function and symmetric difference function. Let me do it. S1 of size 4, S2 of size 5, 4 and 5 elements. When I use symmetric difference, the size will be 5. The size will be 5. Why? The common elements will be removed. The rest of the elements from both the set objects will be returned as output. As they don't maintain the insertion order, the order can be anything, but the elements will be fixed. Clear? Yes. And finally, we have one more function. It is update. What does update does? Update function will actually update, or it is adding all the values of the object 2 to object 1. Set object 2 to set object 1. So if you see here, we have two set objects of size 2 and 4. What am I trying to do? I'm updating. I'm adding all the values of S2, set object S2 to S1, set object S1. So when I say S1 dot update of S2, this will actually update all the values of S1 by adding the elements of S2 to S1. So S1 size will be 6. See, they got updated. But S2 will be same as it is this. S2 will not change. I hope it is clear. So this is all about set. Now let us discuss about frozen set. The next topic in the sequence is frozen set. So what is the purpose of frozen set? The purpose of frozen set is similar to set. Okay. Even if you observe here, it will be similar to frozen set. I mean, frozen set is similar to set. What exactly the purpose of frozen set is helps us to store multiple values, same type or different types are also accepted. Okay. But these elements should be unique. So that means it is similar to set data type. Okay. As there is no specific symbolic notation, okay, for frozen set, we use frozen set function for type conversions. Okay. For performing the conversions, it might be any list object, tuple object, or set object. If you want to convert them into frozen set, you can directly use frozen set function. Right. Then, next to it, similar to set, frozen set does not maintain insertion order. Okay. And there are two types of frozen set objects. What are the empty frozen set, non-empty frozen set? Empty frozen set means does not contain any elements, size will be 0. Non-empty means they do contain elements, size will be greater than 0. Similar to set, similar to list. Okay, the same concept. Empty frozen set, non-empty frozen set. Can we perform indexing and slicing? No. This is all because of it does not maintain the insertion order. Okay, they don't maintain insertion order because that we are not unable to performing indexing and slicing. Then the difference between set and frozen set comes here. Even in case of add or item assignment, set is completely immutable type. Set is completely a immutable type. But frozen set is completely a immutable type. But set objects are mutable in add function case, but immutable in case of item assignment. So that is what you'll see in the note point. The only difference between set and frozen set is with respect to the immutable nature. Frozen set is immutable in case of both add function and item assignment. Whereabout set is mutable in case of add function. Okay. And it is immutable in case of item assignment. Okay. So that makes the difference between set and frozen set. The only difference. Let us focus on the hands-on. As frozen set is immutable, you'll not observe the hands-on extending for a long time. The reason behind it is we cannot change them. Once if they get created, we cannot change them, right? So the hands-on will also be very less base. Right. So let us continue with hands-on of frozen set. What am I doing here? I am creating a list object. A list object of size 6 and I am printing the list object along with its type. Done. Next to it, I am creating a tuple object of size 6. Duplicates are allowed. So I am printing the tuple object along with its type. Now, I am going to convert this list object into frozen set object. Is that allowed? Yes. How? Using frozen set function, we can perform the conversions. When I say frozen set of L1, what is L1? L1 is representing a list object. It is a list object, right? So frozen set of L1 will actually convert this list into frozen set. Let us check. Done. FS1 is a frozen set. But if you see the size is only 2. Why 2? Because in list object, the elements are repeated. Duplicates are allowed. But in frozen set, duplicates are not allowed. So for sure, you have to have only unique values. You'll observe only 10 and 20. Let me print the results. Done. Done. In the same way, let me convert a tuple object to frozen set object. Is that possible? Yes, it is possible. Okay. So I'm converting tuple object to frozen set using frozen set function. Even the size is here is also it is 2. Why? In tuple also you can have duplicates, but in frozen set, duplicates are not allowed, only unique. So I'm printing the frozen set to the console along with its type. 10, 20 and the type is frozen set. Fine. Let me create a set object. This is a set object. Yes. Print the results. This set object I'll be converting into frozen set. Can I do it? Yes. Using frozen set function. I'll just pass the set inside the function. See, I'm passing the entire set. If not, I can directly use FS4 here. Okay. So I'm converting set to frozen set. Set to frozen set. Done. Created. Let me create a empty frozen set. How can we create an empty frozen set? Empty frozen set can be created using frozen set function. When you don't pass anything in the function, this will create an empty frozen set. A frozen set of size 0, which means an empty frozen set object. When you say length of fs, it will return me the output as 0. Okay. So I'm printing fs1 of 0. What is fs1? fs1 is a frozen set and I'm trying to perform indexing on it. Is indexing possible? No. It will throw error. It is not subscriptable. Okay. Item assignment is possible. Frozen set is an immutable data type. So item assignment is also not possible. Okay. Let me perform add function. Even in case of add function also, frozen set is immutable. Immutable. You'll get attribute error saying add. There is no attribute called add, which means frozen set is a pure immutable type. But set is mutable in case of at least add function. You can add new elements, right? Yes. Next to frozen set, we have dict category data types, the fifth category. Okay. So let us understand the next category data types, which is dict category. Under dict category data types, we have only one data type. It is dict. It is dict. What is the purpose of dict data type? They help us to store the data in the form of key value pairs. They help us to store the data in the form of key and value pairs. Okay. So when you take these key and value pairs, the values of the keys must be unique. The keys should be unique, but the values can be duplicates also. That means these values may or may not be unique. So you can have duplicates for the values, but for keys, only they have to be unique. We organize both the key value pairs in flower braces or curly braces. We organize key value pairs in flower braces or curly braces. Okay. Can we perform indexing and slicing? We can't actually perform indexing and slicing because of we have keys. We have keys and using keys, we can access values directly with this. Okay. By using keys, we can access values. So there is no use of indexing and slicing concepts. No. Then coming to mutable and immutable nature. Dict objects are mutable. They are mutable. That means we can change the values. Right? The values can be changed. How? Via keys, via accessing. We access keys, we access values via keys. Yes. So the values of the dict type are mutable. They can be changed, but the keys are immutable. Very important. In key and values, which is mutable? Value. Which is immutable? Key. The same concept. There are two dict objects, two types of dict objects. Empty dicts, non-empty dict object. When do we say a dict object has empty dict? Which does not contain elements, and the size is 0. What if the dict object contain elements? It is called non-empty dict. Obviously, the size will be greater than 0. The size will be greater than 0. So this is all about dict data type. Let me, quickly walk you through the hands-on part that we have for dict data type. So what am I doing is, first of all, what am I doing in line number 886? I am creating an empty dictionary. Yes, when you use empty flower braces, it represents an empty dictionary. It represents an empty dictionary. See, empty dict. Print of D3 comma type of D3 will return me a dict object which is empty and the type will be dict. Length of D3 will obviously return me 0. 0. Then I am passing the key value pace one by one to the same D3, to the same dict object. I am passing key value pace one by one. So this way of representing, where 100 will be our key and the value will be 2.3. So when I execute line number 890, it will add the first key value pair. Ensure that this is a key, 100 is our key, there is no index. Keys are used for accessing the values. 100 is our key, 2.3 is our value. And key and value will be separated by comma, if you observe. Then I am also coming up with one more key value pair. D3 of 200 is equals to 4.5. That means 200 colon 4.5 will be the next key value pair. Key value pairs will be separated by comma, whereas key and values will be separated by colon. Focus. Now, I am going to print D3, the dict object, along with the type. So when I say length of D3, the output will be 2. Why? We have two key value pairs. It does not count keys values together. I mean, does not count separately. It counts both of them together. Key value pair will be counted together. So the output will be 2. I'm adding one more key value pair. So the size becomes 3. See, the updated dict is what I'm returning. One more key value pair can be added. Yes, in this way you can add multiple key value pairs. Okay, instead of adding, I have updated the value for key 200. See, I already have a key 200. Okay, earlier the value is 4.5. Now I have updated the value to 9.8. The value got updated. So let me do it. Done. Let me print updated results. It is 9.8 guys, no more 4.5. So in order to access values, we have keys in dict object. In dict data type, we have keys. Fine. What if I want to create a direct dict object with keys and values? This is how you keep the key value pace. See, the keys and values are separated by colon, whereas key and value pace are separated by comma. So I'm creating one more dict object storing in D2. How many key value pairs? 4. 4 key value pairs. The keys and the values. Okay? Right. I'm printing the results to the console. I'm printing the results to the console. Right. So let me come up with the predefined functions that we have in dict. They are very small in number, guys. Try to focus. We are almost done. We're at the last position. Okay. Clear function. What does clear function does? Clear function, we know that it will clear the entire object. In the same way, when you use clear function, it will clear all the key value pairs. So D1 is my dict object. I'm printing the results. When I say D1.clear, it will remove all the key value pairs. See, it has removed all the key value pairs. Then the next function that we have is copy. Copy helps us for copying the content, right? From one object to the other object, it helps us to perform shallow copy, if you remember. So even copy can be used in dict objects. So what am I doing? I have dict object D1 and I'm going to copy the content of D1 to D2 using copy function. Done. You'll observe the same content between D1 and D2. The same content will be between D1 and D2. So when I say print of D1 comma ID, you get the address of D1 and the same for D2. But these address will be different. Why? This is shallow copy. This is not deep copy. If it is deep copy, the address will also be seen. For both the objects, the address will also be seen. Then, what if I update one of this object, D1? Yeah, a new key value pair will be added for D1, but not for D2. See, 5 and 4. 5 and 4. Right? Yes. The next function that we have is pop. What does pop does? Pop actually helps us to remove the specified value. Okay. It helps us to remove the key value pair by passing the key. When you pass the key alone, okay, that specific key value pair will be removed. So what am I doing? I have created an dict object and I am going to remove the value for key 20. The value for key 20. Done? Yes. So key value pair 20 mango will be removed. You will not observe 20 mango, no more. But in the same way, let me also remove 10, the value for 10, key 10. Done. So no more key value pair 10 apple is present in the dict object. Right. The next item that we have, the next function that we have is pop item. What does pop item does? Pop item will actually help us to, remove the last key value pair from the dict object. From the dict object, by default, the last element, the last key value pair will be removed. So when I say d1.pop item, this is actually going to remove the last key value pair. What is the last key value pair that we have? It is 40 colon kiwi. So if you observe, the 40 colon kiwi, key and the value got removed. That is the purpose of pop item function. Then we have keys function. What does keys function does is, when you use keys function, it will return us the set of keys. The set of keys from the dict object. Let me do it, guys. So this is my dict object. So when I say d1.keys, it will return me a set object. The set of keys. 10, 20, 30, 40 are the keys. So all these keys will be removed. Will be returned. So how should I access them is, if you are going to better use a loop, especially for loop, you can get each and every key one by one. See, all the keys. All the keys is what it is returning. Next two keys, we have values. Like how keys function returned as only keys, values function will return only the values from the dict object. So the syntax is dict object dot values function. Okay, so this is my dict object. I'm printing the results to the console, the dict object. So when I say d1 dot values function, this will return me the set of values. See, does it return the set of values only? Yes. So let me access these values using a loop. Done? Yes. Next to it, we have get function. Get function helps us to get the value. Get function helps us to get the value using the key. We use the key. So provided the key, it is going to return us the value. So this is my dict object. Okay. Even though if I don't use get function, I can directly use it. I can get it as part of syntax. Indexing concept, right? So when I say d1 of 30, it will return me sberry only. I can get the same output using get function also. Get function, the purpose of get function is it returns the values by passing the key value. Then next to it we have items function. What does items function return? Items function will return both keys and values. Keys function will return only keys. Values function will return only values. But items function will return both keys and values separately. See. Okay. So let me use items function on D1. So if you observe clearly, it has written me the tuple of key values, key values, key values. That is the purpose of items function. And if you want to get these items one by one, the key values separately one by one, I'm using a loop. See, the tuple object is what it is returning us, in which the tuple contains both keys and the values. And the last function that we have in dict on dict data types is update. What is the purpose of update? The same, whatever we have learned in set, list, even the update does the same on dict objects as well. When you use update function, it helps us to update the dict object, okay, to the other dict object. Updates. Okay, so here I have dict object D1 and I'm printing it to the console. In the same way, I have dict object D2 and I'm printing it to the console. What is the size of D1 and D2? 2 and 3. When I say D1 dot update of D2, okay, so this will actually update the values, key value pairs of D2 to D1. D1 gets updated. Earlier it is 2. Now it became 5. 5 key value pairs is what you observe now. Where did we get 5? The 3 key value pairs that are present in D2, they got added, got updated. Right? So this is all about dict data type. And there is last category data types. It is non-category data types, non-type category. So this is very small. Hardly I take a very small time of yours. So what is non-category data type is? It is one of the predefined class and it is considered as non-type data type. Okay. So what exactly is none? None is a keyword guess. None is a keyword and none is not null. It does not mean null. It does not mean space and it does not mean some even false. Okay, this is very important because majority of us we assume that none means null. No, none means not null. It does not mean space. It does not mean false. Okay, so in order to create an object of none type, we use none. In short, we use the keyword none. So let me go with the hands-on part directly. So what am I doing? I'm using none type function, right? See, there is no function called none type. Okay, so we are getting a name error, right? But there is a keyword called none. So what am I doing? I am creating a none type object using none keyword. I am creating a none type object. See, A is a none type object. When you say print of A and type of A, it will print none and none type. The point that has to be noted is none does not means empty space. Okay, it does not means null. Yes, so this is all about the data types that we have in Python. So we have covered all the data types. All the 14 were being covered. And in the next class, we'll be understanding few more interesting topics as part of Python. We have again operators, conditional statements, loops, functions, right? So we'll be understanding the next important concepts in the coming sessions. So for today, I'll wind up the session here. And if you find that the session went well, do hit on the like button, guys. It's a kind of encouragement that you're going to provide from yourself. Right? So encourage us by clicking on the like button and do share these sessions among your connections. Ask your friends, your relatives, whomever it might be, ask them to learn Python. Right? Yes. So it's time for questions. Any technical questions? Any technical questions? Come on, guys, make it fast. Sorry, we have a question here. So what is the application of null type in Python? Right? Yes. So whenever you want to represent the absence of a value, we use null type. Okay, null type is representing the absence of a value, right? Yes. And within the functions, as we go on, you'll understand, right? So there is a concept called functions. Within the functions, we have arguments and parameters. Okay, there is a concept called arguments. And if you want to provide any default value for these arguments, we'll also specify the keyword called none. Okay, so the application of null type can be used there. Good question. Any other questions, guys? Is the feedbacking has been provided? Please provide your valuable feedback before you leave. And do hit on the like button, guys. Encourage us. Share across your connections as well. Thank you so much for joining. I hope we had a great session today. Thank you once again. I'm not aware of the other languages, so I cannot reply on it, guys.